Most girls aren't failing glute growth because they're lazy or because they're doing wrong exercises. It's usually because they've been taught myths that don't even make sense for their body. And the crazy part is, I believed every single one of these for years with my journey. It led to so much wasted time, money, frustration, effort, and so many wasted hours in the gym. So to save you right now from all that pain I went through, these myths are exactly why your glutes aren't showing up, why your quads are taking over, and why your progress feels stuck even when you train hard. So today I'm going to break down the 5 biggest myths keeping you flat and what actually works instead. After years of coaching clients for glute growth one-on-one, and also years of growing my own glute growth system and developing in active test groups, I have come to the conclusion that bad information is way worse than no information at all when it comes to glute growth. It introduces frustration, it introduces money wasted, it introduces so many things that aren't there when there's just no information at all available. And that's what's so bad about the internet now. There's so many people that don't actually research what they're claiming or saying or selling. It just creates a whole whirlwind of information, and the viewer, you, are just expected to select the ones that you like hearing most. That is what is holding you back from the glute growth that you want. So I just want to take this moment to say that I have put in so much money, time, and effort for my own test groups to test every single method that I've ever claimed is effective, especially in my glute growth system, the system that I created to grow a glute shelf every single time, to the extent where you see progress in the first workout alone. So when I say these things in this video, I do not say it lightly, and there is so much science and testing and so much effort that I put in privately to come to the conclusions about myths, what is a myth and what's not a myth. So I wanted you to know that right off the bat. This is also my whole life. My whole entire life revolves around glute growth. I started with flat unresponsive glutes. Now I have a glute shelf, and that's what I do for all my one-on-one coaching clients that I've been doing for years. And then for Glute Reset, my mass universal system for glute shelf, that's in the description down below. So these are the myths that kept me stuck for years. So I talk about this in almost all my videos again, but I can't stop hammering it home. Heavier weight will not fix poor glute recruitment. I cannot express the importance of that sentence more. Most girls push load into quads and lower back when chasing heavy weight, and this is a huge issue because when you do that, your neural pathways in your brain that allow you to locate, cue, and contract, feel, and control a muscle basically gets redirected to the strongest one, which is almost always going to be the quads. As long as you're doing heavy weight and you're not seeing glute growth, you're never going to see the glute growth that you want. It took me years to figure this out. Glutes grow from tension plus proper patterning, not just load. Time under tension is the most important thing for glute growth, not only glute growth, but every muscle. But since I specialize in glute growth, I'm only going to be touching on this. Your brain is not going to allow you to contract, feel, and control any other muscle besides most likely your quads if you're using hundreds of pounds, and it does that to prevent injury. Your glutes cannot grow from a movement they aren't actually doing, and that's why you're not seeing what you think you should be seeing when it comes to glute growth results. If your glutes aren't even a primary mover in a movement that you're doing, that's not what is going to grow. So the muscle that's conducting the movement as the primary mover is going to grow, and that's what almost always is the quads. And that's why, again, phase 1 of my glute reset system exists. It completely switches you from being quad dominant or hamstring dominant or lower glute dominant. Any muscle you want to switch from being dominant into only glutes, that is what phase 1 completely fixes, and then it delicately layers on weight from there in a very delicate science-based progressive way from phase 2, the growth phase, and forward. Too many exercises kill mind-muscle focus so fast, you are never able to build up the neural establishment to a movement one at a time if you are changing them every single time. And it takes delicately layering on progressive movements from the staple ones that you start with, not just randomly throwing in new ones every single exercise like these programs online do. This is a thing because they don't have any strategy in their programs 99% of the time. 6 to 10 movements, which will create a motive to do the movements fast, which is exactly what I do not want you to do. You only need 3 to 4 strategically chosen movements. This should be seen as staple movements. This is what I call them in Glute Reset. These staple movements should never be changed. They should be evolved and progressed. So for example, in Glute Reset, I start you off with doing no weight at all for hip thrust, just using a bench. And again, Glute Reset can be done from home. It can be done from my commercial gym. It can be done anywhere, and that's the way I designed it. But what I call a staple movement is something like starting with hip thrusts from a normal bench, and eventually in phase 4, that evolving into Smith machine or barbell hip thrusts. And this should never happen over the course of 1 week. This should take months and months to evolve to, and you'll see progress every single week you do this by doing it that way. If you fail to do this and you keep switching up the exercises because you don't want to get bored or you want to stay entertained by new things, you will most likely be regressing in glute growth, which means losing glute growth without even knowing it, because you are changing up your exercises and routine every single time. This is one of the biggest, most destructive myths when it comes to glute growth that I know of personally right now. So I wanted to make sure this was in the top 2 for this video, because this by far is the most detrimental myth that is around. So it's better to master a few than rush through tons. Again, that is based on time under tension, driving all the glute growth that you're ever gonna get. Warm-up activation is not enough. This is a huge myth where you just do a few banded movements from side to side, then you're good to go for the whole workout with your glutes. This should be seen as just the start. And the way I see this from all the tests I've done, and especially from the way I created Glute Reset, which is what I'm basically going to be explaining right now, because this is what it revolves around, is activation should never just be seen as a warm-up. It should be seen as the entire workout. You should be thinking about activating your glutes before, during, and after, not only every workout, during every rep, before every rep, and after every rep. Yes, every single rep that you do. This should be the encompassing priority of your entire glute workout that you're doing. So if you're just doing side-to-side movements and glute activation before your workout and then going into it like normal and counting reps as normal, that's not the way that it is going to work if you want the glute growth that I'm talking about in this video. Squats hit different bodies differently. If you have a certain limb to torso ratio, it could be great. But if you have the most common femur to torso ratio, then it is most likely an injury-prone, non-effective glute growth exercise. And I've talked about this many times in my past videos. It's great if you want to get overall athleticism and get an overall body workout. But if you're wanting that glute shelf that I'm talking about in this video, traditional squats is one of the worst things that you can do for glute growth. Unless you've been through glute reset, my glute reset system, then if you go into these squatting movements or any movement in general, you'll be able to feel your glutes and use them as a dominant primary mover in them. But if you have not been through my glute reset system, you will not ever get what you're wanting out of the squat movement. It's just going to make it harder for you to get that time under tension neurally for your glutes than your quads. This is why when I squatted for years, nothing changed. Form matters, but over-focusing on perfect angles absolutely kills any neural connection and neural progression that you can get to your glutes. When you're focusing on form, you not only are most likely to get worse form when you're thinking about form, it raises injury risk, and you are also not hitting the glutes really at all when you're thinking about form. And so if you're thinking about form as you are doing these exercises in order to grow your glutes, it is the same exact thing as me telling you to close your hand in a fist while you are completely distracted by thinking about what you are going to eat later. It's almost impossible to happen if you do not even think about it in the first place, if that makes sense. So you need to be thinking about the muscle, and the second that you think about the muscle and start cueing the muscle to allow the movement to happen, you not only reduce injury risk because the skeleton, the tendons, and ligaments have support with the tension of the muscle, but your form will almost always become perfect, at least close to perfect, if you have proper control, connection, and hold over the target muscle that supports the movement. So this is probably one of the biggest myths that there are in the glute growth world. This is why most girls, especially me in the beginning and for years, think they're doing it right but actually feel nothing. This is why I teach contraction first movement patterns with specific location cue strategies with no weight for 30 days first in my glute reset system. And what this means is that your brain leads, your body follows. So I fell for every single myth in this video that you most likely fell for, and if you didn't, you most likely would have fallen for. And there's so much more research and science now more than ever, and it's just growing and growing more and more every single year that it goes on. My glutes stayed flat even when I trained hard because of many things, but I think the myths in this video was definitely holding me back the absolute most more than anything else. The moment everything changed for me was when I finally started disregarding the norm of what non-researchers and non-science-based people were saying, and I finally started conducting my own research and started coaching one-on-one clients for glute growth, and that's when my glutes started taking off whenever I disregarded all these myths in this video. I know a lot of you have probably seen a lot of frustration, pain points, time, money, effort wasted with doing all the myths in this video, and you're probably wondering what there is to fix it all and what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go in order to fix it all. And that's exactly why I created Glute Reset, my system to build a glute shelf. You see results in the first workout. It works extremely fast and efficient. It's phased out for 8 months long, so you see progress for 8 months straight. It leaves you with a glute shelf that you've always wanted, and you can go back in the gym after Glute Reset and do all the exercises that you loved before, except with a new glute dominance. It doesn't require constant macro tracking in order to grow your glutes, constant cooking, specific meal plans. It doesn't require any of that. I made it as easy and quick as humanly possible to get glute growth. It's been years in the making. I'm so happy it is finally out now. It is what fixed the problem for me and hundreds of women now that have been through it and have started. If these myths kept you stuck like they kept me stuck, Glute Reset fixes all of this in a structured, science-based way. The link is in the description. Remember, the Glute Reset Transformation Contest starts January 1st. Comment myth below if you want a part 2. I'll see you in the next one.